Tony Khan and AEW are in crunch mode. AEW's TV ratings have taken a hit in 2024 due to competition from the NBA and NHL playoffs, but there are no excuses in a contract year. This is AEW's playoffs, and either they re-up for a bigger TV deal and win a championship, or they get a weaker TV deal, or even worse, flame out altogether, thereby missing the playoffs like the Jaguars. This would be a disaster scenario for both AEW and the entire wrestling business as a whole. In this special report, we're going to delve into AEW's TV deal, the many signs of Tony Khan's desperation, what a new deal could mean for the company, and why its entire future hinges on what happens with WBD or other possible streaming partners in 2024. And could there be more to this story that meets the eye? Subscribe in Swahili, because this is a life or death situation for Tony Khan and All Elite Wrestling. AEW started as the underdog, the challenger brand, so to speak, filled with misfits who dominated the indies. Nobody thought AEW could be a thing. But before all that, nobody thought All In would be a thing. The spiritual precursor to AEW was the history-making All In pay-per-view from Chicago. It's funny looking back because pro wrestling know-it-all Dave Meltzer scoffed at the very idea of an independent pro wrestling show drawing 10,000, only for Cody Rhodes to bet Meltzer $1 that they would. As usual, Cody was right, and as usual, Dave posted a tweet that aged like Dave Meltzer. The success of All In led to the success of AEW, which gave birth to AEW's first true test in the form of the Wednesday Night War. Once again the underdog, AEW marched into Wednesday nights and dog-walked NXT off Wednesday nights. This was supposed to be light work for Team Stamford. That's why WWE ran their developmental territory against AEW and rarely loaded up the roster because A, they didn't want to look desperate, and B, NXT's roster and brand name on paper should have washed AEW. But that didn't happen. Through compelling pay-per-views and white-hot shows, AEW beat NXT head-to-head in the majority of their matchups, to the point where AEW earned a Wednesday night monopoly, leaving WWE embarrassed and hamstrung by Vince McMahon's bottom-of-the-barrel booking in 2019. AEW's next big TV test came in 2020, during the pandemic. This very well could have been the end of AEW had it not been for a godsend right before COVID shut everything down. In January of 2020, AEW renewed its TV deal with Warner Bros. Discovery through 2023. The $45 million per year deal was a lifeline that kept the promotion alive through a dystopian era of wrestling. Had it not been for that bag, there would be no AEW today, even as hot as it was before the pandemic. AEW spent the early 2020s kicking WWE's ass. There's no other way around it. NXT could not keep up with All Elite Wrestling, which was the new kid in town. Former NXT champion Adam Cole couldn't beat him, so he joined him in 2021. Bryan Danielson came right after. And if what I'm hearing is true, so did Keith Lee. CM Punk made his return to pro wrestling after 7 years in what was undoubtedly AEW's best debut. We'll get back to that for the record. AEW could do no wrong in its first 3 years of existence, at least on camera. There was always the Tony Khan gaffe on social media, but it wasn't nearly the issue it is today because AEW had great matches, easily digestible storylines, and every championship mattered. AEW's rise was greatly bolstered by the success of All In, which proved there was an audience desperate for an alternative. But in hindsight, how much of AEW's rise was just that? A blind thirst for an alternative because WWE was shit in 2019. Looking back, was AEW really that damn good? Or were wrestling fans just that damn thirsty? Seriously, were all those casual AEW fans at the beginning the pro wrestling version of beer goggles? AEW had that new car smell early on. Cody Rhodes as the adult in the room also helped AEW immensely. Now that we've all seen AEW's violent shortcomings in booking over the past few years, it's fair to ask how much of AEW's success was driven by actual storytelling and how much of it was predicated on the same type of hot start that every challenger brand has before flaming out, especially in the face of lean times for WWE. ECW got hot during a time where WWE was corny AF. They had so many plumbers and garbage men running around during that time, it's like they were trying to book for New York's perennial rat problem. ECW was very influential in the wrestling business, even pushing WWE to become more edgy and hardcore. But ECW's rise and fall was violent, quite literally, and quick. WCW Nitro went on a historic 83-week winning streak against Raw before WWE got its shit together and pulled away. TNA was never really a challenger to WWE, but as a challenger brand, they were competent enough to sign Hall of Fame caliber free agents and even go live on Monday nights for a cup of coffee back in 2010.
Doris, who the hell is that?
Dave, I'm here to talk to you about the major renewal for the greatest real pro wrestling shows of all time, AEW Dynamite and Collision. Oh, and Rampage too, I guess. I keep forgetting I have that one.
Mr. Zaslav, we just lost another $70 million because nobody wanted to see Harley Quinn versus Jason Voorhees. Damn it! Someone get this moron out of here. If he's some carny promoter from a dying promotion like WCW, just give him a lollipop or something. Tony, the network is thrilled with your ratings. In fact, you are now the #1 live sports program in prime time in all of Turner Networks.
Wow!
After hockey season.
Oh.
But we'd like to offer you a new deal.
Wow!
And here it is.
Oh.
What's wrong?
Well, it's a little low.
Oh, come on, that's a great deal.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking at the Dynamite ratings for this week.
Oh, right. Well, yeah, that's why it's such a low deal.
AEW is just this generation's version of RC Cola, not Pepsi, but its upcoming TV deal could bump it up to Dr. Pepper. Okay, that's too much. I'm tripping. How about Coconut Dr. Pepper Zero? But definitely not Pepsi. There's only one individual in pro wrestling who represents Pepsi, and that man represented AEW's peak, but also the beginning of its decline. When AEW got into the CM Punk business, it was like if Fire signed a 3-year deal with kerosene. CM Punk is one of the biggest stars to walk the face of the earth in pro wrestling. But like most top stars in wrestling, he comes with a lot of baggage. Punk thrives under strong leadership and organization. Despite being difficult to deal with in WWE, again, as most top stars are, WWE was able to squeeze a decade of money-drawing storylines and red-hot merch sales that once rivaled that of John Cena. Say what you will about Vince McMahon, but he's a carny at heart. To deal with the locker room filled with egomaniacs who all think they should be top stars, you don't necessarily need a McMahon, but you do need a strong man. AEW was hitting on all cylinders and seemed to be just the place for Punk's comeback tour. That is, until he exposed them through a social media controversy that compromised the AEW product like if a pro wrestling narrative was bacteria. CM Punk's time in AEW was a microcosm of the promotion itself. A hot, memorable start, one that set a positive tone early. Punk had great matches and even a pair of world title wins, only to fall apart due to infighting and paranoia facilitated by a leaderless environment where the garbage men ran the disposal. This is strictly an employment analogy. Nobody's calling anybody trash. Chill. Except for QT Marshall. He is trash. Nah, I'm just playing, QT. You know we love you. CM Punk's brawl out and brawl in were telltale examples of a promotion that didn't know how to handle its most flammable asset, but also didn't know how to part ways with him until their lawyers had to get involved. AEW diluted its product by adding a third television show to placate CM Punk. But Punk was gone a couple months later, with no brand split and a fraction of WWE's audience, AEW having 3 shows felt excessive and essentially killed the Rampage brand name not too long after the show did over 1 million viewers for CM Punk's debut. Rampage is now the Sunday night heat of AEW, while Collision is like a mid-2000s SmackDown, when it was clearly the B show. Hurricane Phil ran through AEW and left a stench on the promotion that continues to linger.
We're gonna make the show better.
Okay!
The Young Bucks have a new sneaker deal with Reebok. We like that.
Oh, great!
We'd also like a mascot on Dynamite to keep the energy up.
No problem! We can bring in Jackson DeVille, the Jaguars mascot. He's unemployed until the NFL season starts.
That's fantastic, Toonie. Excellent. Let's shake up the commentary team, too. Hey, you know who's a great commentator? Charles
Robinson? He's more of a referee, but...
Barkley! He just loves wrestling, and crazy coincidence, he's free to be an analyst for AEW. Hey, we got an idea. Hey, when a wrestler doesn't break the 5 count, can the referee call a foul? Then maybe the fouled wrestler can then shoot a couple of free throws.
Free throws? Like in basketball?
No, this has nothing to do with basketball or TNT losing the NBA. We're way past that. Free throws, like, one wrestler gets to throw the other wrestler 2 times.
Okay.
For 1 point each.
I mean, I've done weirder.
In the wreckage of all these CM Punk controversies, AEW found it difficult to move on. Not only did the product suffer, despite signing one free agent after another, but they seemed obsessed with the CM Punk drama. Punk debuted with WWE as the promotion continued to pour it on AEW. Punk's signing continued a disturbing trend of top stars like Cody Rhodes and Jade Cargill leaving the promotion only to go to the competition and come off as even bigger stars. Like most origin stories of challenger promotions, AEW woke up the sleeping giant that is WWE. And come 2022, it was WWE that got hot and could do no wrong. By November of 2023, CM Punk's return kicked off a WrestleMania build-up that is unrivaled. It was the culmination of WWE's 2 greatest stories ever told, between the Bloodline and Cody Rhodes' story. WWE's ratings and live event numbers skyrocketed. AEW suffered. AEW's year-to-year average viewership fell by over 100,000 in 2023. AEW surpassed 1 million viewers 2 times in 2023, but they haven't hit that milestone since February 22nd of 2023. 2024 will very likely become the first calendar year in AEW history where the promotion didn't have a single show draw over 1 million viewers. AEW's desperation to increase ratings in the face of TV contract negotiations have led to bad booking decisions, the worst of which was AEW revisiting its disastrous CM Punk situation by advertising the promotion would air the previously unseen CM Punk footage from All In, when he fought Jack Perry. This in reaction to a podcast appearance from Punk, who essentially described the situation exactly as it had happened. AEW's goal was to clear its name during an internet controversy, but all it seemed to do was confuse its own TV fan base, most of whom are not familiar with Dirt Sheet T. If you follow the ratings for the CM Punk angle, many of the younger fans seem to think this was a sign that AEW may be teasing a match between Punk and Perry, which would mean the return of CM Punk, AEW's biggest star. AEW did one of its best ratings of the year for the Surveillance show, but that came and went. AEW didn't build momentum to its current storylines coming out of that show. The opposite happened. AEW's 819,000 viewers for the Brawl In recap was a huge increase from the 752,000 the week before. But AEW Dynamite fell to 762,000 and bottomed out with 683,000 views the week after, its worst viewership in years. Sports competition aside, this tells me that there was a fan base interested in CM Punk's appearance on AEW TV, but once they found out that wasn't happening, they left. This was a particular problem in 18 to 34. AEW tried to use its cousin Phil momentum to build towards an NWO-like angle with the Elite, but it continues to hover in the 700,000 range. Thankfully, MJF will be a much-needed boost. The first Dynamite after his return almost hit 800,000, though he wasn't on it. Instead of building steam to its current storylines, which AEW did try to do through the airing of the Brawl In footage, AEW effectively tricked itself off these streaks, all while coming off like a jealous spouse who still wasn't over their ex. To make matters worse, The Rock entered the group chat in 2024 not only to make a special appearance at WrestleMania, but to buy into TKO, run the WWE, and even wrestle at WrestleMania. The Rock and David Zaslav have a history together. In 2022, The Rock reportedly went directly to Zaslav and WBD executives to push his Black Adam agenda and try to take over the WBD-owned DC. The Rock's Hollywood heel turn was in full swing, and that pissed a lot of people off. It also blew up in The Rock's face when Black Adam flopped. This is eerily similar to The Rock's attempted coup of the WrestleMania main event, which also blew up in his face. Thing is, that controversy between The Rock and Cody gave us the final boss, some of The Rock's best work ever. Over in real life, The Rock is in direct competition with the same WBD executives he reportedly tried to strong-arm, only to have it all backfire. If this creates the real-life version of the final boss, David Zaslav and AEW better watch the fuck out. This is deeper than WWE versus AEW. This is $7 versus Warner Brothers Discovery. Despite his failures, and maybe even because of them, when The Rock goes to war, he usually wins. With both WBD and AEW now reeling, they should be nervous. I mean, let's keep it a buck. All right, $7. AEW is already clearly in panic mode. I mean, they got poor Dave Meltzer wearing two hats as AEW's press secretary and its defense attorney. AEW's decline in 2023, the promotion has tried to throw money at its problems by loading up on the most high-profile free agents in the business. But it doesn't feel like when Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson showed up at All In. There's a palpable anxiety that hovers over this free agent spending spree. They're not free agents as much as they're a drug and a trauma response to AEW's ongoing struggles. Sure, we see some of these big signings as some of the best wrestlers in the world coming to AEW. But for Tony Khan, this is just a rich kid's version of ice cream and cookie dough while he cries and listens to I'll Be Missing You by Redacted to help him cope with the loss of CM Punk. It reminded me of the show Insecure, Season 3, Episode 6. After Lawrence broke up with Issa and was a whole hoe in these streets. Mans was fucking everything breathing. He clapped the sister from the gym, that fine-ass bartender, there were strippers at one point. His revenge sex tour was so wild, he had to be treated for an STD. That's exactly like Tony Khan signing all these free agents after breaking up with CM Punk. Tony's exactly like Lawrence, because he's such a thought signing so many free agents it's giving AEW the clap. Having Will Ospreay, Kazuchika Okada, and Mercedes Moné is great. Becky Lynch is using AEW as a bargaining chip as we speak, but who knows? Maybe Tony Khan will give her $20 million a year, a Jaguar, and the Jaguars. CM Punk taught us that no matter how big of a star you are, AEW will not benefit from a game changer if they don't have a game plan. AEW's game plan for Okada is to stick him in the message board world order with the Young Bucks and Jack Perry. It's crazy to think that the Young Bucks are the same two guys who are the masterminds behind the Bullet Club, which in terms of long-term storytelling, I would argue was better than the NWO. The Bullet Club was the opposite of the NWO in that every time a top star joined the group got better. The Bullet Club cycled in Adam Cole, Kenny Omega, AJ Styles, Prince Devitt, Cody Rhodes, and for years, it never felt stale. The MWO was only a couple of months into its story, but it feels amateur hour and corny. The Young Bucks are running around with Hillary Clinton pantsuits while Okada is wrestling uninspiring matches for a belt nobody cares about. Because now AEW has so many belts, none of them matter anymore. The Elite comes off as mid-card comedy at best. And what's supposed to be the game-changing storyline to save AEW's ratings is less of the Bullet Club and more of a bullet shell of itself. AEW has also been struck down with the injury bug. MJF came back from injury at Double or Nothing, but Kenny Omega and Adam Cole are still out. AEW is so ravaged by injuries, they had an injured Darby Allin replace an injured Eddie Kingston for their insane Anarchy in the Arena match at Double or Nothing. AEW is down bad in 2024, or at least it seems that way. Because perception is not always reality. And even when it is, the key to a great deal is leverage. WBD just lost the NBA. And suddenly, AEW has hope.
Now we'd like a post-show for AEW, something to further the storylines and recap the matches so fans are more invested. If WWE can have Raw Talk and Talking Smack, then TNT can have Inside the AEW.
I totally agree. We could really benefit from... Wait, Inside the AEW? Like inside the NBA?
Oh no, Inside the AEW is just a random working title. There's a lot of shows that start with the words inside. Inside the NFL, Inside Amy Schumer, Inside Stuff.
Inside Stuff is a basketball show.
Is it? It's been so long since I've even thought about basketball. God, it's been so boring. I'm glad we dropped the NBA.
I read they signed with NBC for a bigger deal.
No, you're thinking about WWE leaving NBC Universal to sign a bigger deal with Netflix. Now how about we add a 3-point line from the top rope?
Like in basketball?
No, goddammit, but yes, like in basketball. Exactly like basketball, you son of a bitch. We'll throw in an extra $1 million if you rebrand to All Elite LeBron.
The NBA is going back to NBC. Shouts to John Tesh and Roundball Rock. This is both a good thing and a bad thing for AEW. And it's a great thing for John Tesh and Roundball Rock, which is a perfect sports song, don't get me wrong, but if there's a remix, maybe have Metro Boomin make the drums for that? From a perception standpoint, WBD needs a live programming bedrock now more than ever, after its foundation was shaken by that damn peacock in its deep pockets. WBD losing the NBA and AEW in the same year would be a bad look. What, you're gonna go to war with the NFL and NBA with hockey? That's literally bringing a stick to a gunfight. And WBD ain't winning that gunfight without Cash Wheeler in AEW. He's not guilty, is he? With NBA gone, AEW finds itself in a good position to re-up with WBD. And as many struggles as AEW has had compared to other cable television shows, their numbers are respectable. Compared to AEW standards, ratings have flatlined. Not only is 2024 AEW's lowest rated year, but the promotion is averaging the exact same numbers in 2024 that they did during the pandemic. Not good. Still, they're consistently in the top 5 when it comes to cable ratings, and they're the closest thing to a replacement to the NBA as WBD is gonna get, even with much lower ad rates. But the loss of the NBA is also a bad thing for AEW. WBD will not have the revenue it once did due to the massive carrier fees from the NBA deal. If, and probably when, they re-up with AEW, it might be at a discount. At certain points in the negotiation, the street said Tony Khan was not happy with the numbers being thrown around, something that AEW defense attorney Dave Meltzer objected to. This puts AEW at a disadvantage when it comes to enticing free agents with big money deals. AEW is already going to have trouble luring top WWE stars away from the promotion, which will be on Netflix and air on a far more mainstream platform. We've only really heard of WBD as the chief bidder for AEW's TV rights. This isn't like the NBA where WBD was in competition with Amazon, Disney, and NBC, leading to a massive $76 billion deal for the NBA. Maybe Fox kicks the tires on AEW, but realistically, I expect AEW to compromise with WBD. Warner Brothers Discovery is cutting costs and just lost its biggest sports property after a 40-year marriage. Meanwhile, AEW lost David Zaslav's favorite star, One Bill Phil, and is stuck trying to put its pieces together amid fractured ratings. WBD and AEW's relationship is a sad story of two ailing franchises licking their wounds and looking for a rebound, no pun intended. This isn't a TV negotiation, it's a depressing Tinder match. Talking about, let's just see what happens, and maybe if we like the same music, you can spend the night. Of course, motherfuckers want to act like if AEW signs a great deal, all the anti-AEW media will go out of business. Girl. Baby girl. Long before AEW was a thing, a little company called Bleacher Report hired me to cover pro wrestling. Mind you, the company that now owns Bleacher Report owns AEW almost as much as I do. And when I upgraded from Bleacher Report, I moved to a little company called Forbes, which went so well it gave the wrestling world a big black company called Pro Wrestling Bits. With or without AEW, I'll be just fine. As I've said before, AEW criticism is just one of the services I offer. In fact, I hope AEW gets a great new TV deal. If AEW is dead and gone, that's worse for the AEW hater space than if they were around. Remember, Rush Limbaugh, whom I despise, was never more popular than when the Clintons and Obamas were in power, because he had authority figures to antagonize, and it made him more of a compelling character. So as far as AEW is concerned, mo money, mo content. Check out this CM Punk documentary and subscribe. What are your thoughts on AEW's TV deal? Will it be enough to remain competitive with WWE? Tell me in the comments!